or NATO
to Ukraine. That is the message from the British Deputy Secretary of Defence, Annabel Goldie. This comes as using these munitions have had devastating health effects in conflict zones around the world, particularly, for example, in Iraq.
Alongside our granting of a squadron of Challenger 2 main battle tanks to Ukraine, we'll be providing ammunition, including armor-piercing rounds which contain depleted uranium. Such rounds are highly effective in defeating modern tanks and armored vehicles.
All right, RT's Steve Sweeney now joining me live in the studio to take this conversation further. Steve, good to see you, but this is, frankly, profoundly disturbing. I was covering the second Iraq war when I was working in America for the mainstream media there. I clearly remember the coalition forces using depleted uranium ammunition, irradiates the soil, and I remember interviewing doctors who said you can expect hundreds of years of deformed babies as a result. How on earth is this coming to pass?
Well, of course, we'll come on to Iraq, but this announcement appears to be an incredibly dangerous escalation. And of course, it comes at a time when the Chinese President Xi Jinping is in Moscow talking about a peaceful resolution to the conflict in Ukraine. Now, the Defence Minister, Baroness Goldie, has confirmed, she said that Britain will send armour-piercing rounds which contain depleted uranium as part of this Challenger 2 tank package. And she made the admission in response to a written question by the crossbench peer Lord Hilton. Russia has previously warned, however, that it would see the use of depleted uranium in Ukraine as part of a dirty bomb. Let's take a listen to what they said.
If Kiev is supplied with such shells for NATO heavy military equipment, we will consider this as the use of dirty nuclear bombs against Russia, with all the ensuing consequences.
Now, the use of depleted uranium remains deeply controversial. It's a grey area in terms of legislation. But as you mentioned, the United States used depleted uranium, most famously in the town of Fallujah, leading to a rise in birth defects, miscarriages, and cancers on a scale not even more than that seen in Hiroshima, where, of course, the United States dropped the atom bomb in 1945. Now, I happened to be there last week and I spoke to medics on the ground, and they said that there was undeniably a causal link between what they've seen there in terms of these birth defects and the use of depleted uranium. But what they also said was that they had been pressured by the United States not to speak out about it. Now, the study which showed this shocking rise in cancers and leukemias and birth defects and miscarriages was, of course, underreported in the mainstream press. It was barely mentioned, leading to this accusation that there's been a cover-up about the scandal in Fallujah. And, of course, it's not just in Iraq. We can go back to Yugoslavia in 1999, where NATO was admitted, in fact, to dropping 31,000 uranium missiles. That's 10 tons of missiles during the bombing of Yugoslavia. Now, more than 300 Italian soldiers have died as a result of exposure to that material. The survivors and the relatives of those died are taking a court case against the military alliance. Now, some experts have really warned about the threat that depleted uranium poses to the world. It's worth quoting one academic study which described depleted uranium as the Trojan horse of nuclear war. And it said the use of depleted uranium weaponry, defying all international treaties, will slowly annihilate all species on Earth, including the human species, and that yet the United States continues to do so with full knowledge of its destructive potential. So it's perhaps unsurprising, really, that the US, along with France and Britain, has really led opposition to calls for depleted uranium to be banned and its use on the battlefield outlawed. Now, Britain has quite laughably perhaps claimed that depleted uranium shells are no more radioactive than household goods, while the United States has denied the link between depleted uranium and birth defects and cancers, despite the numerous studies that have suggested otherwise. Now, to admit otherwise would, of course, lead them open to war crimes charges. Now, the World Health Organization has, however, raised its concerns over the use of depleted uranium. Let's listen to what they've said.
A paper from the World Health Organization reports that someone who inhales small, insoluble uranium particles may experience lung damage or lung cancer due to radiation. Depleted uranium may also lead to poor kidney functioning.
Now, the World Health Organization has conducted investigations. It's compiled quite a comprehensive report. But again, some experts have said that the body was pressured into suppressing evidence around the effects of depleted uranium, adding fuel to these claims of a cover-up. Now, back in January, the White House refused to say whether it was supplying similar rounds, these containing depleted uranium. But Britain's admission it's a controversial move. Its actions could dangerously escalate the conflict at a time when others are calling for peaceful negotiations.
Steve, so the UK is poised to send depleted uranium ammunition to the conflict zone in Ukraine. When this stuff blows up, it's going to irradiate the topsoil. It's going to irradiate the water tables. It's potentially going to cause centuries worth of deformed children to be born. And Russia says if you do that, we will consider that to be a dirty bomb.
Exactly, and Russia has made this warning before, like we said, when the United States refused to say whether it was sending similar depleted uranium rounds to the conflict. And of course, we've heard the evidence from Fallujah, and like I said, I was there last week, and the evidence is there for all to see. The spike in cancers was, as this study shows, and particularly they were talking about leukemia, was worse than that seen in Hiroshima, where the atom bomb was dropped in 1945. So, of course, this is a hugely dangerous escalation. Russia has warned against it as well, as we've heard with their very, very strong statement that they would see this as a dirty bomb. So this is, make no mistake, this is a very, very dangerous escalation.
It's dangerous and it just sounds downright reckless, affecting all civilians who are already affected by this ongoing conflict. Steve Sweeney, thank you.